morning, and I hope, guys online, you are able to see my screen and hear my voice, isn't it? Can anyone please
Can
confirm?
anyone please
Yes,
confirm?
we can see.
Okay, great. And guys online, one quick request before I get started is please stay on mute if you do not have any questions, and if you have any questions, please use the react button out here, raise your hand, and I'll just come back to you once we are in the Q&A session, and we'll just take those things out here. Sorry, I'm sorry. Can I on the speaker? You're sitting close. Not able to hear me still? Yeah, not able to hear me still. Okay. Just I'll put the speaker on too. And let's see. Okay, just give me a quick minute. I'll just get back to the session in a second. Okay, are we good now? It'll echo a little bit because there are not a lot of people in the class. It'll echo a little bit. So, are we good now with that? Okay, cool. So let's get started then. Okay, so on Saturday we were pretty much doing a demo. We were just understanding what really Azure Cloud is, or let's say we were just discussing about what cloud really is and what DevOps really is. We did make a couple of introductions out there, like what do you really mean by cloud engineering, or what do you really mean by DevOps, and what are we going to learn, and all these things. So that's pretty much what we started out with. And today is where we'll officially start off with something called as Azure Cloud, because that's what we are here to learn. And as I said, sorry, as I said in the earlier demo, the first at least 30 days or 35 classes would completely be upon the Azure cloud. We are not going to touch DevOps firstly. We are going to touch Azure and get familiarized with a cloud called Azure. There are a lot of, let's say, terminologies. There are a lot of, let's say, services in Azure that we need to get familiarized with. So, in order to get started with Azure cloud, the very first thing that you need to do is you need to start interacting with the website of Azure. It's a cloud, so you don't really have to install anything. You don't really have to do anything. All you need to have a laptop, an internet connection. You can pretty much get started. And in order to interact with an Azure cloud, you need to go to a link, or you need to go to a website address called portal.azure.com. This is something that we are going to use day in day out. This is something that we are going to use, let's say, day in day out here, called portal.azure.com. That's the only link that you need to remember for the next 30-35 classes. This is the only thing that we will use. And this is the URL to start working with a cloud called Azure. Now, once inside, you will need to have an account with Azure. Again, if you have a previously, if you are using a previous Outlook account, or if you have a Gmail account, or any kind of account out here, you can link that particular account with Azure. So that's what you can do. So what I'll do is that I'll start telling that I don't have an account, and I'll say create one. And in my case, I have a Gmail account. If you even do not have a Gmail account, you can get a new email with @outlook.com or let's say hotmail.com out here. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people. Just a second, guys. Can you please go on mute if you're not speaking? All right, but I'm pretty sure that a lot of people might have already had a Gmail account out here, right? A lot of people might have had a Gmail account. So let's go ahead and say create one. And I'll start by giving my Gmail account, which is 7 a.m. DevOps class at gmail.com. So this is the account that I do have. So it's a simple Gmail account that I have. I'll say enter, and it's asking me to go ahead create a password and all that stuff. I'll just go ahead create a password for myself, and then it's asking that what, you'll have to verify your Gmail account, so that in order for me to go ahead and register this out. And if I just open my Gmail, and I'll just sign into my Gmail account out here. And once signed into Gmail, I should have a verification email coming from Microsoft. So this is the verification email. I will have a code inside this particular verification email, pretty standard registration procedure. And sorry, and I'll just copy this code. I'll just paste it in. Let's say next. And after this, it will try to verify whether I'm a robot or not. So I'll say, okay, fine, you're not a robot. I'm saying, okay, fine, great. Same pick a lobster. I just pick this out. Okay, oh, there's this one. Okay, okay. Let me try this out once again. This sometimes gets a little crazier out here to go ahead and solve all this puzzle. And one more, just one. Okay, fine. So once I am solving all these puzzles out here, I am okay. Fine. Let me try this out once again. Okay, let me do one more thing. Let me come back once again and let me try this out. There is sometimes this thing that happens where you continuously keep asking you to, let's say, solve this puzzle out. So let's try to, let's say, redo the same account, and I should be getting a new code. Let's place this in. Let's say next, and let's solve one more thing out here. Let's see. Okay, let's try and see. Okay, please solve this one. Okay, this is somehow the session got cached. Let's try this out once again into a different browser. We go to portal.azure.com, and it's an incognito window, so it doesn't really cache out here. So I'll do one thing. I'll just create a new Gmail account for myself, and let's get started there. Some reason that Gmail account is really not, let's say, I'm not able to get any luck with that particular Gmail account. So let's go ahead and create a new one. Someday, some month, some year, and some gender. Let me go and create this out real quick. So just creating a Gmail account for myself because I already have a lot of accounts that is integrated with this. So I have to, let's say, force myself to create a new one for, let's say, this particular demo. Let's go there and let's begin. All right, so let's say create one, and let's try this trial account once again. Let's see if I'm able, let's say, get through it. And let me give it a new password out here, and let me once wait for this one and verify this account. And once verified, let's go ahead and enter the code out here, and let's try to do the same thing again and see whether we are able to get through it right now. Okay, so let's try this out once again, and let's see if I am able to, let's say, go ahead and get this out. So 04777, and once I'm in there, Let's try to see what kind of puzzle it tries to give me out here. Let me do this. Okay, same issue. Okay, there seems to be some issue with the portal that's going around clearly. This cannot be happening. Let's see. Big square to identical objects. Seriously. Okay. This is getting tougher and tougher to create this one. Let's see. Okay, so let's try that some other time. All you need to do is just have an account with yourself, whether it's a Gmail or whether it's an Outlook or whatever it is. Get done with this particular procedure. I'm not sure why it's having issues today, basically with getting the puzzle solved and all that stuff. Once you have this account and once you, let's say, go ahead, register yourself with Azure, and then go to something called portal.azure.com. You will see a screen something like this, telling it is Microsoft Azure. Welcome to Microsoft Azure and all these things. So this is the very first screen that you kind of get here, and this is now called as an Azure tenant. We call this as a tenant in Azure. Let me write that down for you. It's called as an Azure tenant out here. Now, did anyone hear about this term called tenant anywhere? Yes? No? Sorry, while using? While renting the house. Okay, tenant. While renting the house out here. Same thing. Again, as we were talking about Azure on, let's say, Saturday, we are telling that you're not buying anything, but rather you're going ahead and renting something out here. And that's the very reason you become something called as a tenant for Azure. And you get something called as a tenant ID. So whenever you go ahead, create an account with Azure. So again, how did I create an account with Azure out here? I have a Gmail. Put my Gmail in here. I said create one, create a new one out here. I put that code. Went ahead and solved that puzzle again. It's taking some time to let's just solve the puzzle today, so it's acting a little weird. So once I do that, I am into this particular page, and very first time you'll get a dialog box here telling that welcome to Azure, get your journey started and all that stuff. And once you say okay, you'll see this particular page telling this Azure services and all these things. So good enough. Once I'm in, Azure is now treating me as something known as a tenant because I now want to start my journey and start renting services on Azure. Renting services. Like if I want to, let's say, go ahead and store my data, I rent a kind of a service. If I want to, let's say, go ahead and start my applications, I rent a kind of a service out here. So I'm now renting a service with Azure and I get something called as a tenant ID. And if I want to go ahead and look at my tenant ID, just come here and go to something called as Azure Active Directory, AAD. If I just click on this, we'll again in a very detailed way, we'll discuss on what Azure, let's say, Active Directory really is. And if I click on this one, I have something called as what? A tenant ID, which is an alphanumeric character, a unique character out here, which Azure or which Microsoft has given to me as and when I registered myself with Azure. So as and when I registered myself with Azure, let's put this diagrammatically a little. So as and when I started registering myself with Azure, let's say cancel. The very first thing that I got is a tenant ID, and I will represent a tenant ID using this particular cone out here, which is the Azure Active Directory, the symbol of Azure Active Directory out here. So I didn't do nothing. I just went ahead, used my Gmail account or Outlook account or Hotmail account or whatever it is, registered myself with Azure, and I got an account. And this account right now is called as an Azure tenant. This is the first step that we need to do, is that we need to go ahead and register ourselves with something called as Azure, getting an Azure tenant out here. Great. My question to Microsoft right now is that, you know what, I now have a tenant ID. I did go through the procedure of creating a tenant ID. Can I now start creating resources with you? Meaning, I want to now start using the cloud. Can I start using the cloud? Microsoft says, hold on. Tenant ID is nothing but a space that I'm giving you. That this is a space that you can use. But in order to use this space, you need something known as a Azure subscription. You need to subscribe to Azure. You need to start subscribing to Azure. Just like you have an Amazon account, but you cannot really watch Prime videos directly. You need a subscription called Prime in order to go ahead and start watching all those videos and all these things. So same thing. If you have an account with Azure, doesn't mean that you can start using Azure directly. You need to have something called as Azure subscription, which is represented by this particular key out here called subscriptions in Azure. And in order to create a subscription, you will need a pre-existing tenant, a new one or a pre-existing tenant out here. So I say, okay, great. Let's get started with, let's say, Azure subscription out here. And what I do is, let me do one quick thing. This is a paid account, so I'll just switch my directory to a different one. So I am inside the Azure portal out here, and I go to my subscriptions, and I say add a subscription. So what I do is, this is the home page that I have. In order to see what are all the subscriptions that I do have, I can just go ahead into the search window, and I can say subscriptions out here. And in subscriptions, when you start, let's say, your journey with Azure, you will see here telling that there are no subscriptions for you available because it's a new account out here. Mine is a used account, so it says there is one subscription out here. And in order for you to go ahead and start your journey, you need to create a subscription. And how do you need to create a subscription? Just click on this add button out here, and as and when you click on the add button, it will give you all the eligible subscriptions or all the subscriptions that you are eligible for. And I am focusing upon one specific subscription out here called a free trial. Azure goes ahead and offers multiple subscriptions out here for you. And in my case, it's telling you are not eligible for a free trial subscription because I've already used it, which means that under one tenant, under one account, you can at max have one free trial subscription. It's only one free trial subscription what Azure offers to you. And a free trial subscription has a couple of features out here. When you create a free trial subscription, again, how do you create a free trial subscription? That's a question that will come down to. When you create a free trial subscription, Azure gives you somewhere around 14,000 rupees in the form of credits. I would say 14,000 credits. The question is, why do we need this 14,000 credits? Is because we are going to learn Azure. If you want to learn Azure, you try to create multiple things with Azure. And when you create anything with Azure, it is charged on an hourly basis. Every service that you create with Azure is charged on an hourly basis. And these credits will be consumed. Every hour you use Azure, you lose a credit or something like that, depending upon the service that you use. So Azure gives you credits so that you can start using Azure for the next 1 month. And the validity of a free trial subscription is 30 days from the day you create it. Yes, 30 days. This is valid for the first 30 days from the minute you create it. Let's say I created today on 16th of August. It's valid till the 16th of September. It's 1 month of cycle that basically that you pay when you go ahead and create something called as a free trial subscription out here. So a 30-day period. Now the question is that do we have to create it right away today? No. I would say do not go ahead create it right away. I will tell you when to create it. Like take a day, I mean take 2 or 3 classes. After that you can start creating, let's say, a free trial, because it's more going to be theory to understand what Azure really is. For which you do not need to, let's say, spend about 2 or 3 days basically out of this particular 30 days out here. So the other question can be, the course is around 75 classes. It's only 30 days basically that you get here. Like, in a free trial subscription, you only get about 30 days out here. After the first 30 days, what are we going to do? Are we going to, let's say, create a new free trail? Yes, that's an option. But if you want to create a new free trail, you will have to change your email address. You will have to also go ahead and change your mobile number and then create a new account with Azure. And only then you can create a new free trail. Reason being, under one tenant, at max, you can only have one free trial subscriptions. And that's the reason, if you see, in my case, I'm not getting a free trial subscription at all. Right now, it's telling, this account that is called classes Azure devs at the gmail.com. It's already done with free trial. So I cannot give you one more free trial. So the question here is that can I go ahead use a new mobile number, use everything new, and then go ahead and create a free trial subscription? Yes, you can do that. Or one Azure subscription that you are using right now with 14,000 credits can be shared amongst multiple people, meaning you can add multiple users under a same subscription, and every time you add someone, they go ahead and use the same 14,000 credits. So for example, if there are 3 people who are working on your account, you three will start sharing this particular 14,000 credits out here. That's another way to go ahead and say that, what, if you are 3 students who are coming to this particular class, one can create this one, let's say, free trial subscription 1 month, second can create the second one, third can create the third month, and you all can, let's say, share it across and, let's say, kind of work with that. Again, how do I create a free trial subscription? Very simple. In my case, I do not really have this particular option out here. If I were having this particular option, I just say select offer, just like I click here saying select offer out here. As in when I do a select offer, it's going to ask me to, let's say, log in once again. So I'll just do that. So as and when I do a select offer, it's going to start asking me to sign up with Azure. This is the Azure sign up out here the sign up page basically that I get out here. And in a sign up page, you are going to get things like, let's say, in my case, I'm just going ahead and it's telling agreement, accept agreement, and all that stuff. Same thing. Then it's going to ask you to do something called as identification by phone. So all you need to do is click here, give your phone number. You will get a text message to your phone number, verify that, and finally, something called as payment information out here. In order for you to create a free trial subscription, you will need to go ahead and give something called as a credit card information. You need a credit card for this one. Debits are not really accepted. You do not have something called as debit card out here. Debits are not really accepted out here. You need a credit card. That credit card can be on anyone's name. It might not be on the account holder's name out here. It can be on anyone's name. You can use a credit card, let's say, Master, a Visa, whatever it is, shouldn't be an issue. You need a credit card information out here. So here you need to give something called as your payment information called credit card, the usage address where you're using it out. And in my case, I'm getting something called add technical support. In your case, when you're creating a free trail, you will not get this option called technical support. And finally, you hit the sign up button. As in when you hit the sign up button, Azure is going to take you to a new page to validate your credit card, telling whether your credit card is valid or not. And you will have an initial deduction of 2 rupees. You'll have an OTP getting, and you'll be having an initial deduction of, let's say, 2 rupees out here. And once the 2 rupees is deducted, once you go back to your Azure account and go into something called as subscriptions, you will be able to see a subscription here. In place of my subscription, this Azure classes, you will be able to see a subscription called free trail with something called as a subscription ID, and the status of the subscription would be active. In my case, it is disabled. In your case, when you go ahead and create something, the status of the subscription is going to be active out here. So mhm. Even for the paid subscription by default, we have free trial. Again, subscriptions are of different types of, let's say, different kind of classifications out here. This is a paid subscription. This is something that you see on my screen. This is a paid subscription. The offer itself is different. Again, if I want to go ahead and add a free subscription here, it's checking my eligibility, and I don't really have a free subscription out here as well. So if I just click on, let's say, check your offer, I mean, it's once I do this, in your case, you will be getting this particular option enabled, and in your case, you'll be able to select this particular offer. In my case, I don't. So for a paid subscription, no, there are different subscriptions out here that are available. And that's where I'm coming down to, is what are the different kinds of subscription that you deal with Azure and everything. Mhm. Correct. Mhm. Okay. No, I did not say that. I clicked on this, reason being I cannot click on this one. So it's the same. For a pay account, it will be reflected as pay as you go. You can change the name, yes. You can change the name. That's what I did. For a pay as you go subscription, you get the name here as pay as you go. We'll talk about what pay as you go is. But when you say add here, so just a second. When you say add here, and when you go ahead and check this out here, you will be having multiple options, and I want you all to go ahead and register something called as a free trail. Let's talk about pay as you go in a minute, but I want you all to go ahead and start dealing with something called as free trail right now. Initially, we'll talk about what pay as you go really is. So I'll just take a quick pause, just take a quick just take questions, and we'll let's say go from there. Yes, any questions still here, online, offline, anyone, any questions still here? I will talk about that. I'll come down to something called paid account and all these things out. But yes, any questions still here? Anyone, any questions still here that I can take?
I have a question. My name is
Good, please.
Venugopal. So we activate free trial by using our credit card, right?
Correct.
How can we deactivate? I mean,
Uh, Good question. We activate pay as you go using a credit card. How can I deactivate it? Again,
after 1 month, yes.
yes, after 1 month, the subscription will go into an auto disable mode, just like I have. If you see this, I did not disable this particular subscription, it got automatically disabled. So if you're not using this subscription after 30 days, firstly, what will happen after 30 days is that you won't be able to use
You
the
won't be able
subscription.
to use the subscription.
Okay, let's just go a little bit into mute. Okay. So firstly, after 30 days, you won't be able to use this particular subscription called free trial. because the validity on the subscription is only for the first 30 days. After that particular 38th day, your subscription will go into something known as a disabled mode. The subscription will automatically get into something known as a disabled mode out here, and you will not have any automatic charges. So you do not have to really disable it. Azure will automatically deactivate your subscription out here.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Do we use all services? Not all services, because if you look at all the services out here, what Azure offers you somewhere around 250 services right now. Now, we are not going to use all the services that are there in the Azure portal, but we are going to use all the essential services that is required for you as a DevOps engineer. That is what we are going to use out here. That's what we are going to look out here. Mhm. After 30 days, can you renew the same account? You cannot renew a free trial. You have to convert your account into something called paid account out here. So after 30 days, you will have to convert your account into the pay account if you want to use the same subscription. If you want to, let's say, go and use the same subscription with the same details, yes, that's correct. 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 So is paid services also 30 days? No. Paid account is like a postpaid account out here. When you go for a postpaid mobile connection, paid account has 1 month, let's say, billing cycle. So every month, at the end of a month out here, you will get a billing cycle telling that this is the amount that you need to pay. And once you pay that, the subscription will be carried forward depending upon the usage. Correct. So paid account doesn't really have an expiry, and that's where I'm coming down to the different kinds of subscription that is actually available in Azure. And the very first kind of subscription that we are looking at, let me put this as kinds of subscription. And the very first kind of subscription out here that we're looking at is a free trial. So to create a free trial, you will need to come here into your Azure portal or into your Azure tenant. Either come here and say subscriptions, go into something called as subscriptions out here, or you click on subscriptions out here and say add a new subscription. And once you add a new subscription, it says checking your eligibility and all these things out. And once you check that particular eligibility, I want you all to go ahead and click on free trial and hit the sign up button out here. And on the sign up page, it's going to ask you information like your name, your address, your phone number. Once you verify that, it's going to ask you your credit card information, called what is credit card and etc. Once you give your credit card and hit the sign up button, you'll basically get an OTP on your mobile number. Give that OTP, you'll be charged an initial, let's say, deduction of 2 rupees, and then you will have something called as a free trial subscription, which is valid for the first 30 days. Validity is 30 days. After 30 days, it will be auto cancelled, it will be disabled out here, which will give you somewhere around 14,000 in form of credits. Again, you cannot carry these credits forward. You will have to, let's say, use these credits entirely in the first 30 days out here. After this, as a company, as an organization, it's time to think about an organization out here. You are starting up an organization. You will not all likely go for a free trial. Free trial is for us, like students, to go ahead and understand what Azure really is and all these things out. So, as an organization, I will be going for a model of Azure subscription called pay as you go. So, if you go here, there is something called as what? Pay as you go out here. This is something that I will do, or this is something that I will go for, or this is something that I will go for if I'm an organization, or in my case, I'm an individual, but my subscription is expired. My free trial is expired. I want to start using Azure. So I'll go for something known as pay as you go out here. So I can go for multiple pay as you goes under the same Azure account. So pay as you go again. as I was telling, is like a postpaid connection out here. You take this pay as you go subscription, and you are billed on a monthly cycle. Billing is on a monthly basis out here, and at the end of every month, Azure will generate a bill telling that these are all the services you used. This is the charge that you need to pay, and you need to go ahead and pay that particular, let's say, bill to continue your next month journey with Azure out here. If you don't pay this out, again the account will get into a disabled state as such out there. So this is the monthly billing cycle, which is pay as you go. And to create any subscription, either being it free trial, either being it pay as you go, I will need a tenant to begin with. I have a tenant. The very first thing that I did is went ahead, registered myself, and got myself something known as an Azure tenant. And once I have an Azure tenant, I started creating all these subscriptions under it. And then if you look at my screen, you have something called as Azure for students as well. Now, this is for students who, let's say, study in universities abroad and who have Azure or who have cloud engineering as a part of their syllabus. The university goes ahead and gives them, let's say, a unique ID and all these things. So if you have a brother or a sister who's studying, let's say, abroad, or studying in India, who's let's say, Azure is part of their curriculum, you can go ahead and also start using this particular service. And this is free for the first 12 months. Free trial is only free for 1 month. Azure for students is free for the first 12 months out here. And apart from this, you have much more offers like sponsorship, meaning Azure goes ahead and gives you some passes to clear some examinations as sponsorship out here. Visual Studio enterprise subscriptions for professionals who are working in a company and all these things out. You get something called Visual Studio enterprise subscription out here. Then you have Azure Students for Starters, Azure in the open. You have a lot of things out here. You have a lot of subscription types what Azure really supports. What I or what we need to look at is these two kinds of subscriptions out here, which is free trial. Primarily, I would suggest everyone to go ahead and have their own free trial accounts. And after that, if you want to, you start using Azure. Let's say more flexibly, you can go for something known as a pay as you go. Another question that people normally ask me is that, you know what, is there any difference between free trial and pay as you go? Like free trial, is there any limitation? In free trial, yes, there is a bit of limitations, meaning you cannot create services in all the regions that you want to. You have a little bit of limitation out here, but is it sufficient to go ahead and do all our demos? Yes. For all our demos, you don't really need to have, let's say, a pay as you go out here. If you have a free trial, you can, let's say, go ahead practice each and every class that is, let's say, being on the offer. Yes. Any questions clear? Good, please. Correct. Again, Azure for students, you have to qualify as a student. You have to exactly. You have to give your college ID. You have to give all these things out here. That is Azure for a student. So we are not really eligible to go for that particular Azure for student account out here. It's free for 12 months, but you will have a credit limit, meaning if you go for a free trial subscription, you will get 14,000 rupees as credits for a month. If you go for Azure for students, you'll get 10,000 rupees for 12 months. So it just depends upon what kind of services that you kind of get out here with Azure and extra. Yes. Any more questions here? Mhm. Okay. Okay. Correct. On an hourly basis, correct. All the hours that you have used. Correct. By the end of the month, it will be all the hours that you have used after. Okay, I'll take a question that's there in the chat box, sir. If suppose there are three of my friends are using a subscription, can you all use it at the same time, log in at the same time? Are 14,000 credits sufficient for three people throughout the month? Yes. To answer to the second question, 14,000 credits are more than sufficient for, let's say, the 3 months out here. If three friends are using, can I log in at the same time? Yes. Not three, but even 3,000 people can log in the same time on the same Azure account out here. It supports parallel logins. You can log in simultaneously into an Azure account at any given point in time. You can have multiple people going ahead with the same Azure account out here as such. Yes, any more questions here? Mhm. Good, please. When you say multiple subscriptions in a paid account, again, account is not paid. Tenant is a free entity out here, meaning when you create something called as an Azure tenant, you are not paying anything for this one. You just have an ID, you're just creating something called as a tenant. Under one tenant, you can have multiple subscriptions, multiple paid subscriptions with one tenant ID. Under one tenant ID, you can have multiple paid subscriptions out here. Each and every paid subscription will have its own billing cycle. So let's say you have multiple subscriptions. You are making a bill of 100 rupees here, 100 rupees here, 100 rupees here. At the end of the month, at a tenant level, I need to pay 100 plus 100 plus 100, 300 rupees out here. Yes, you can have multiple subscriptions under one particular tenant. We'll also talk about why do you need multiple subscriptions under one particular tenant. That's something that we need to talk about out here. But yes, for every subscription is the billing different? Yes, for every subscription the billing is different. Every subscription will have its own billing out here that you kind of incur. Depends. If again, if you are creating this particular subscription with a credit card A, you can create this particular subscription with a credit card B. So you can have different credit cards, or you can have different kind of payment modes for different kinds of subscriptions out here. Will it debit automatically? If you're going for a pay as you go, yes, you will have an automatic debit. Sorry, it's a recurrent model, yes. So if you're going for a paid subscription, yes, you will have an automatic debit that is happening for a month out here. If you don't want auto debit, can you disable that one? In a pay as you go model, no. In a pay as you go model, it's an auto debit only. Just a second. I'll just yes. So for a pay as you go model, you will have to, let's say, go ahead and pay this out. That's the reason auto debit needs to be supported. You cannot disable because you'll have to disable your entire subscription. Pay as you go is based on, let's say, recurring model out here. Okay. Yes. Even for the recurring model, you get an OTP. It depends upon your bank. It just depends upon your bank. Sometimes you don't even get an OTP. You automatically get debited out here. Because Azure, when you go ahead with the auto debit model, it signs a contract with your bank telling that you'll auto debit your account. If again, it's a pay as you go model. Free trail, you do not have a concept of auto debit. First 30 days, your account is disabled. That's the reason I want you all to start thinking about free trail only. Do not go for pay as you go at this point. Until and unless you have worked with Azure earlier, do not go for a pay as you go model right now. So the question here is that if the 14,000 gets exhausted, got over before the first 30 days, account will automatically get disabled. So it's either 30 days or 14,000 credits, whichever is earlier. Whichever is earlier, then your account will get disabled out here. Yes, any more questions here? Even if we doesn't, sorry, even we do not use. If you are not using Azure, if you create a pay as you go, you're not using Azure. By the end of the month, your billing will be zero. So your billing will be zero, right? So for example, if you look at this one, I have a subscription with me, and my current cost out here will be zero out here. If it's zero, then Azure will not even do any auto debit out here, right? There's no point of, let's say, doing an auto debit if my current cost is 0.00. So if you see this, the current cost is 0.00. I did not use it, so I disabled this out. I manually came and disabled this out. So if your current cost, if you're not really using it, there will not even be a concept called auto debit that's coming in the first place. Okay. Okay, let me take a question that is there in the chat window. For one credit card, one person can use. Okay, one credit card, can we get more subscriptions? For one credit card, can you get more subscriptions? Yes, provided it's not a free trial. If it's not a free trial, you can have multiple subscriptions on one credit card. If it's a free trial, it's only one free trial subscription per a credit card and per a tenant. You cannot really have multiple free trial subscriptions on, let's say, the same credit card out here. Again, one more question that I want to address is that a lot of students ask me, how can we get these notes? Do we need to take any notes out here? Don't really have to. We do not really have to take any notes out here. All you need to do is just remember this particular link called docs.microsoft.com. This is a one-stop solution that I'll be visiting again and again. This is like our Bible for the next, let's say, 75 days out here. And if you go here, this will have the documentation for all the Microsoft products. Every Microsoft product that's, let's say, on the market, like Office 365, Word, and etc. It has a documentation for everything. I'm looking for one specific thing called Azure. If you click on this one, it's telling getting started with Azure, design your applications and all these things out. And it has documentations for each and every individual service out here that is on the offer with Azure as such. So what we do normally is that, for example, let's say we read about something called Azure subscription today. We said, what is Azure subscription? So I'll say, what is Azure subscription? Let's do this. And here you'll get a lot of links out here and etc. And even in the documentation, if you go to docs.microsoft.com, even in the documentation, you can start searching for the articles out here telling that, what this is all and all these things out. You can start searching for the article telling it is Azure subscription. So if you click on Azure subscription out here and say search for it, you will have multiple articles on how to go ahead create an Azure subscription, what is an Azure subscription, create your initial subscription, a couple of things out here. And all you need to do is read from here telling what really Azure subscription really is out here. And for each and every service, again, if you look at this documentation, it'll tell you choose your subscription, what a subscription really is, and all these things out. So you have all these things telling what is your subscription and everything. So very importantly, we just need to know how to start reading the documentation. And as the classes progress, I'll also give you the documentation links. We'll post the documentation links on the WhatsApp group that will be created out here. And as I said, each and every session that you see is recorded today. Even today's session is being recorded. And by, let's say, the afternoon, we'll go ahead and share this recording out here. And my suggestion for everyone is please go ahead, for example, today we are recording something. Please go ahead, download the recording today itself. Name it as class 1, class 2, class 3, and so on and so forth. Because the recordings that we do are stored on this cloud called GoToMeeting. We use an application called GoToMeeting application, and each and every recording that we do gets stored in that particular cloud. And we are using an account with them, and each and every recording that we do is stored on the cloud for the next 7 days. If you don't download it, then you lose that particular link. So download it, save it in your system so that later, let's say after a month, you want to revise a concept, you can just come to that particular recording and start just listening to that particular concept. So that would be my suggestion to go ahead and, let's say, start with the sessions out here. Again, I would say in tomorrow's session or day after, you can start creating an Azure subscription. And any questions that you get at any point, y'all can reach out to me at this particular ID out here, which is classes Azure DevOps @gmail.com. This is the ID. A lot of students basically, as you see, if I just go to this particular account, a lot of students, this is just for the class, a lot of students basically reach out to me about how do this is the error that we get and all such stuff and etc. So we get a lot of emails. We keep responding to a lot of emails out here. So any point, any questions that you get, please send across an email. And when you're sending across an email, please mention what is your name, which batch that you belong to, and what is your question, and we'll be able to answer it back out. And again, the ID here is classes Azure DevOps @gmail. Sorry, classes Azure DevOps @gmail.com. This is the ID that you want to make a note of, or you want to take a photo of, or something like that. And if you have a question, you can reach out to this particular ID out here. Yes, any questions that I can take before I can close? Anyone, any questions that I can take? I'm sorry. Can we once again try for the free account right now? Again, even if I try it right now, it won't, let's say, it will happen because my browser has cached a lot of things out here as such. So if I once again try for the same, but you all can try it out. You all can just try it out at your end to see whether you're able to, let's say, get past that particular step. Sorry, can you come again, please? One user. Yes. If you have a different mail ID, again, if you want to create a different subscription, you'll have to have a different mail ID, different phone number, different credit card information also. Three things have to change if you want to have a new free trial subscription. Because these are the three things based upon which Azure will give you a free trial or not give you a free trial subscription. Yes, any more questions, guys? Jayanti, do you have a question? I see that your hand is raised.
Yes, I have a question. Can we use anyone student registration over here?
If you have someone in your circle who's studying in a university, then yes, you can use their account to, let's say, yes, you'll have to get the information like their student ID and password and etc. and then log into Azure. Yes, you can use it.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk about the rules. We'll talk about what are the rules and all these things out here. Okay, today I just want to keep the class more to the very bare basic introduction on what Azure really is, what is a subscription, what is a tenant. And tomorrow we'll start extending on this one, telling what are different kinds of subscriptions, why do you need multiple subscriptions under the tenant, and then we'll go into something called roles and permissions out here. Okay, that's it from my end today, guys. Thank you and have a good day ahead. And we'll meet tomorrow. We'll discuss more on this. Thanks, guys.